We actually have other news related to Brett Kavanaugh as well. A lot of Brett Kavanaugh stuff today. So we talked about the background earlier just now about sexual assault allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. We had Christine Blasey Ford come forward, allegations from high school. We had Deborah Ramirez come forward, allegations from college about forcing his penis into her face and forcing her to touch it without consent. We now have learned about an individual named James Roche. James Roche was Brett Kavanaugh's roommate at Yale in 1983 during the time that the Deborah Ramirez incident allegedly took place. And James Roche has now given an interview and put out a statement. And what James Roche says is not good for Kavanaugh. He says, quote, basically that he believes the accuser, saying, quote, "We shared a 2-bedroom unit in the basement of Lawrence Hall on the old campus. Despite our living conditions, Brett and I did not socialize beyond the first few days of freshman year. We talked at night as freshman roommates do, and I would see him as he returned from nights out with his friends." Going on to say, "It is from this experience that I concluded that although Brett was normally reserved, he was a notably heavy drinker, even by the standards of the time," meaning college freshmen in in the early 80s, "and that he became aggressive and belligerent when he was very drunk. I did not observe the specific incident in question, but I do remember Brett frequently drinking excessively and becoming incoherently drunk." This is important because Kavanaugh denies drinking to this degree. Now, as far as the accuser, Debbie Ramirez, James Roche, again, this is Kavanaugh's college roommate, went on the record and in a statement said, quote, "She stood out as being exceptionally honest with a trusting manner. As we got to know one another, I discovered that Debbie was very worried about fitting in. She felt that everyone at Yale was very rich, very smart, and very sophisticated, and that as a Puerto Rican woman from a less privileged background, she was an outsider. Her response was to try hard to make friends and get along." How could it be that so many people are now saying that Brett Kavanaugh either did certain things or is exactly the type of guy who would have done certain things when he had 65 girls who knew him in high school who said he's just a great guy? Now, he did go to an all-boys Catholic school. It's weird to me that 65 girls knew him well enough to make statements on the record about exactly what kind of a guy he was. That's a little bit odd, but we can skip over that right now because I want to sort of circle all of this stuff, Pat, back to something that is really important that has been forgotten because of all of these sexual assault allegations, which are important. The story about his tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt related to baseball tickets is still out there, and it's really a concerning situation.
I forgot all about that stuff. It feels like it happened ages ago.
The story is important, and I don't want you to let the sketchy debt story go away because of the sexual assault stories. I don't want the sexual assault stories to be ignored because of the perjury stuff, but the sexual assault can be more easily shrugged off by Republicans by saying, as they will, accusers sometimes lie, it's been a long time, these are smears, it's a smear campaign. The $200,000 in sketchy baseball ticket debt can't be explained away as easily, and it's also a much more complicated story to figure out what it is that Brett Kavanaugh actually was doing. It is extraordinarily shady, but almost nobody's talking about it anymore. And if you've forgotten about this or never knew about it to begin with, Brett Kavanaugh had a bunch of debt that was sort of mysteriously and very quickly paid off in advance of his 2017 financial disclosure. His claim is that he was buying baseball tickets for friends on his credit cards and that then his friends would pay him back, and that he had racked up a ton of debt on the credit cards, but he was paid back, lo and behold, by the time he filed his 2017 financial disclosure, the debt was completely gone. But does that really make sense to anybody? Because it's very weird that a guy who is not rich at the time, based on his net worth, it doesn't really make sense that he'd be amassing these tens of thousands of dollars on a rolling basis, adding up to a couple $100,000 in credit card debt, reportedly for baseball tickets, and then it all goes away and we don't know how, and it just absolutely stinks. And it's the sexual assault stuff is important. If he perjured himself, it's important. But there's been no reasonable explanation for this debt being paid off either.
Yeah, and there were plenty of other judges, conservative judges, that Trump could have picked. And I wonder if, the sexual assault allegations and maybe to a lesser extent the baseball ticket stuff will be a reason for Senate Republicans to pull the plug on Kavanaugh sometime soon and rush through someone else?
I don't think it's their call. See, that's the thing. What the Republicans seem to be doing is trying to move full speed ahead. Senator Cornyn put out a statement yesterday saying that if nothing new comes from Thursday's hearing, they're going to vote on Kavanaugh in committee and in the chamber before adjourning Friday. That's like 3 days from now. So I think that as long as Trump doesn't say we've got to pull him, as long as Kavanaugh doesn't say I'm going to go away because it's becoming a distraction, I think the Republicans are sort of committed to just trying to get him through. And I think for them, part of it is they don't want it's horrible that it's become this toxic, but if they don't get Kavanaugh through, they won't see it as this was a bad guy who lied, had very weird debts that were paid off suddenly, and had multiple sexual assault accusations against him. They will say, the Dems won. They prevented us from appointing this guy. They get a win, we get a loss. Even though you shouldn't want an alleged serial sex assaulter on the Supreme Court. So I think that if no one else pulls the plug, Republicans are going for it.
Yeah, and there are some political pundits saying that if Kavanaugh is rushed through, despite all of these allegations not getting heard, then he will always have an asterisk next to his name as a Supreme Court justice. What does that matter in the end? I mean, he's going to be able to serve on the court for, 30, 40 years, and this stuff's not going to matter, and it's not going to affect his decision-making.
It's only a lifetime appointment, Pat. What are you worried about? Now, I do have to bring this up because the audience will crush me if I don't. Did you say asterisk or asterisk?
I was thinking about how to pronounce this word ahead of time, and I still couldn't get it right. So yeah, if you want to slam me on that, it's fair game.
And there's actually one more. Did you say pundit or pundit?
I think I said pundit.
Okay.
Let's play back the tape.
Yeah,
we'll just do it over.
Let's roll it back, do the entire story over, and cut that out. We'll do an overdub after we go to commercial. Make sure you're following the show on Instagram at David Pakman Show. Make sure you are following me on Instagram at david.pakman. You know who joins me next? This is someone I've been looking forward to interviewing for a long time. You said we've been working on it since
April?
Since April of 2018. Astronaut, I guess I have to say retired astronaut, Scott Kelly is going to join me. He spent a year on the International Space Station. He has a twin brother, Mark Kelly, who is, of course, the husband of former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who was tragically shot in that incident several years ago now. Scott Kelly is going to join me next. I hope you will stay with us for this one, even those of you who don't love the interviews, because I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you are as well. Quick break, back after this. Today's program is sponsored in part by Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you've not already heard about Blinkist, it's amazing. It's an app for your phone, tablet, or web browser. And what they do is they take nonfiction books, popular nonfiction, critically acclaimed nonfiction. They condense the book into a 15-minute audiobook. You get all the most important information and insights from each book, but you can soak up the entire essence of the book in one sitting. I've listened to a ton of books on Blinkist. One recent one is Robert Reich's new book, The Common Good. Also Bunk by Kevin Young, useful in preparing me for the pseudoscience miniseries that we're producing. And if you are a David Pakman Show viewer or listener, you can get a 7-day free trial by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you're watching on YouTube, use the link in the video description. After the free trial, if you like it, you can get the full access to thousands of condensed audiobooks for about $5 a month. That's BLINKIST.com/PAKMAN.